Welcome to the Long Island Sound Podcast, where we explore the muse and the music, from the North Shore to the South Shore, from New York City to the Hamptons, navigating the wellspring of original music from singer-songwriters and musicians from Long Island, New York. Hi, I'm Steve Yusko from gigdestiny.com. Stay tuned as we explore the Long Island Sound. In this episode of the Long Island Sound Podcast, we discover Bob and Claire Blatchley, who have such great music and an interesting backstory and are part of the trio Perfect Strangers. Stick with us here at the Long Island Sound.
I've been ridiculed and I've been schooled, cut down to size, won't be victimized. I've seen a crooked grin, mask a world of sin. I won't compromise, be party to the lies. I've seen nations fall like a New Year's ball, seen waters rise, heard the desperate cries. Lord, give me some solitude, a moment's rest, an interlude. Gotta find me some solitude to face the world with gratitude. I prayed for bravery, witnessed slavery, shed a solemn tear, let the flames burn near. I cursed the stormy sky and watched my mother die. She had the gift of song, it was passed along. Lord, give me some solitude so I can weigh the magnitude of a world without solitude. When will it be renewed? I've been ridiculed and I've been schooled, won't play the fool or break the golden rule. The sacred is within, to be born again, my faith renewed, give me solitude.
I heard this beautiful voice emanating from the back room when I entered the Village Lantern in Lindenhurst last week. Until now, Bob Blanchley and I were perfect strangers. His vocal intonations and guitar created a relaxed atmosphere, setting up a comfortable experience for the evening's dining and the enjoyment we seek from live music on Long Island. Delving deeper into his music, I found an introspective posture and a spiritual thread of lessons learned and the hope we yearn for, as he was accompanied by his wife Claire on flute through the tracks I uncovered online. And with that, I'm happy to introduce you to Bob Blanchley. Welcome to the Long Island Sound Podcast, Bob.
Well, thank you very, very much, Steve. I don't really have much else to add. You pretty much covered it, so I've got nothing to say.
And thank you, everybody. And that's probably the shortest podcast that we've had to date.
And the season's over.
And please tip your waitresses and waiters on the way out. You know what's funny? My experience of and I really love interviewing musicians and artists. And you come across, just my initial thing is as a humble guy, and all the great humble people are like, I don't know if I have much to say, but as we dive into things, you'll find out we have a lot of things to find out about you. And our goal here is really, for me, and I think for the audience, is to discover the musician behind the music. And I'm always curious, did you come from a musical family? When did you pick up an instrument? Where did it all begin for you, Bob?
I was actually born in Brooklyn, and it was the typical mother-daughter house where we lived with my grandparents, my Italian grandparents on my mom's side. So they both played music. My mom was a singer. My uncle, who lived in the house, sang and played guitar. My brother played guitar and sang. So I was surrounded by it, and it was great to just be, introduced to so much different music over the years. My brother got me started on the guitar. My uncle was a huge influence. He would come by. He was about 11 years older than I am, and he would come by and say, "Oh, you have to hear this new song by Paul Simon. You got to hear this Cat Stevens." And he was excited to show his little nephew all this great music, and I was just like a sponge, taking it all in.
I tell you, you know what amazes me, and I have nieces. I told the story before. I didn't have that type of upbringing. I was, I wanted to play the piano, and I didn't woodshed it, as they say. But I really like learning about your influences and having a family that does that encouragement. You don't realize. I mean, I realize it as an adult now. What an impact kids have on adults who love music and want to share music with them. I think that's phenomenal. I have nieces, we hand the harmonicas around the campfire in the backyard, and of course they got one in every key, but they're having a grand old time. And it's that kind of influence that creates the artists that we have today. So you were really you were in like the pool of music, I guess it sounds like.
Yes, it was like I had said, primarily, like I said, my mom sang. She had a beautiful voice. My grandparents played, but at that point in time, they really weren't playing that often. My uncle was really the one that kind of pushed it. But I'm just going to backtrack real quick. So I actually have one of my first memories as on this earth, and it was a musical memory. I was 5 years old. So I'm born in 1959, and my mom, with the radios on in the house, and my mom hears a song come on. She goes, "Oh, listen to this. This is the Beatles. You have to listen to this." And I started listening to "I Want to Hold Your Hand," and for the first couple lines, it didn't do much for me. But then when the harmony came in and Lennon went down and McCartney went up, I said, "Okay, now I get it." And I still remember that moment when my mom said, "Listen to this. This is the Beatles. They're gonna, and that was the big thing back then. And then I started actually playing guitar. I sang from a young age, but I actually started playing guitar at 11 years old in 1970. So that was a wonderful time to start playing guitar, because a lot of singer-songwriters were coming along after the Beatles broke up. You had your Cat Stevens, your James Taylor. I'm a huge fan of Simon and Garfunkel were big influences in my life as well.
And you know what? I can actually attest to that, because Paul Simon is the influence that came to mind when I first heard your voice.
Okay.
I could definitely hear that influence, as we walked into the restaurant. And, for me, it's like pitching over hitting, in baseball. Singing really trumps everything else. That's what kind of draws me in. The instrument playing and knowing that craft is great, but it's the vocals. It's just that great instrument of vocals and people who hone that craft is that I find so amazing, and it's not that common. And then when you're in a group and you could have the magic between one or more singers, like in harmony, what grabbed you, that's really kind of cool. I'm the knucklehead who, has difficulty finding the first note in the song, as my wife will always remind me, going, that's the wrong key.
Oh boy.
Well, so that's why I do podcasts.
Oh, that's so funny. So you saw us on Thursday night, and on Thursday night I play with a trio called Different Roads. Myself, Guy Pezzullo plays lead guitar and sings, and Rick Bonilla also plays guitar and sings. And the nice thing about the group, and the reason we called it Different Roads, is we all came from different backgrounds, but we've all got very, very different voices as well. Like you had mentioned, my voice is kind of a Paul Simonish voice, which I think is accurate. Rick Bonilla has a very, very Dylan-esque kind of that type of voice, and Guy Pezzullo has a real rock and roll voice. He'll rip out some stuff, like what's that song? I can't even think of it. He'll do some Bruce Springsteen stuff. He'll do Runaway, things like that. We can hit the high notes like that and really tear it apart. So we all come at it from different angles, and it's a very nice. There's a very nice contrast.
Yeah, now let me set the stage for when we went into the Village Lantern. The Village Lantern, for those who don't know, is a great German restaurant in the heart of Lindenhurst on Wellwood Avenue. And they recently expanded and they opened the place up. They used to have a bakery next door, and it's really kind of airy now, and they're doing some more work in the back. But I we go for the food, but if there's music, that's a bonus for us. And we were used to seeing older gentlemen, playing the accordion and very ethnic music. So when we walked in, we heard you singing. I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is something I can relate to. And it kind of filled the atmosphere. I know I said that in my introduction, but it really kind of sets a beautiful stage, and I think that's key for any musician who plays live. You kind of ebb and tide through performance and background, I think, to a certain extent, and you have to have a feel for the room and what have you. So you played it well.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate that. And I will pass the compliment on to Rick and Guy. And we've been doing it there. Believe it or not, I was figuring it out the other day. It's about 10 or 12 years already that we're there on Thursdays.
Wow.
And they couldn't. They're great to us. We love coming in there. It's a fun night out. And I'm very blessed at this age to be able to perform and record and write and sing. And I worked in finance. I actually worked on the trading floor for 30 years, and somehow I walked away and still had my voice, which I'm lucky about, because a lot of people I know had polyps and things like that. Sure, they kind of lost their voice a lot. So I'm very grateful.
That's nice. It's interesting, and I try to help friends get gigs, and it's not easy. And a lot of singer-songwriters listen to the podcast. And, sometimes it's great. It's a blessing for you that you've had this, every Wednesday or so go on. That's really great. It's hard to break into a place, especially when you have a good artist and the venue operators. Hey, these guys they're a fixture here, So it's I find that interesting, and that's, I think, the struggle that some young artists have in breaking into playing consistently live out there.
Very true. Yes, very true.
And what we're going to hear is Bob has a few songs, some original songs. We always like to expose our audience to some great original music that can kind of get buried in the weeds on Spotify, so to speak. So we'll be jumping into that later. So did your brother continue with music, or any other family members, or are you the one who kind of took the torch, so to speak?
Yes, my brother actually still plays. He kind of comes at it from a different approach. He's he's a student, and he likes to learn, and he's the one that breaks it down and learns tab and all that kind of stuff. He's not really, as he says, he doesn't really perform, but he loves the instrument. He loves the techniques, the concepts behind it, the mathematics of it. He's very, very much into that. And my uncle, who I mentioned earlier, who got me started, and we've played on and off over the years together. He still plays. He plays nursing homes. We're actually playing a gig this coming Thursday at an adult daycare in Farmingdale. So he's still at it, and he's got a wonderful voice, and he's a great singer-songwriter as well.
That's funny. You remind me of a story. My mom was in assisted living, and I saw this gentleman who was just a really great guy. He played Santa Claus and stuff like that. And I went to visit him in his room, and I look on his wall, and I'm not kidding you. He had 20 gold albums on the wall. This is an 80-year-old man. And I said, "You're a songwriter?" He goes, yeah, I'm a songwriter. Yeah, I got a few hits. Very humble guy. It just blew my mind. You never know. You never know what's behind the person.
You never know.
So it's kind of cool. Hey, why don't we do this? We're going to take a short break, and when we get back, I'm really interested in when you picked up the instrument, how it came to you, how you approached it. We'll jump into that. So, hey, everybody, stick with us, and we'll be right back. Hi, Steve Yusko from Gig Destiny here. Well, as you're probably listening to this podcast, you're probably thinking about that musician who would make a fantastic guest here on the Long Island Sound. Well, we'd like to hear their story. We'd like to hear their music. So have them reach out to us at gigdestiny.com, and we'll explore their craft. Now, back to our podcast. Hey, we are back. And Bob, I'm really curious about this with musicians. When you tackle the guitar, you got introduced to it by your uncle and your family, who sounds like they were really supportive about music. How did you approach it? Did you approach it, did you really get into the theory part of it, or did you start strumming it? How did you approach your instrument?
Okay, the theory for me came later. I've always had, from what people have told me and from what I've seen about my, where I am, I've always had a very, very good ear. And
okay.
So the singing came first to me, and then I wanted to learn how to play guitar so I could actually perform and, back myself up with the guitar. I learned by ear probably, and then as the years went on, I picked up more and more theory, and I look at more theory now than ever, and I break things down. And because Claire, who's my wife, plays the flute, we speak different musical languages because she everything she does is reading, and everything I do for the most part is by ear. So the only time we really fight about anything is we're trying to arrange something because we speak different languages. I'm talking about this, and she's like, "Well, I'm seeing it a different way than you are," and we have to figure out a shorthand, which we figured out that we've got a shorthand how we arrange things at this point.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so the theory came afterwards for me.
Yeah, my wife and I have a shorthand. She tells me what to do, and I do it. So it works for her. So But what I find interesting too is a husband and wife duo, and how you approach music, how you have another language. You mentioned another language to communicate with each other, and when you perform, I always found I find it kind of remarkable, especially in a band or a trio, and I've been noticing this more and more as I go out and listen to live music, is the nuance of communication, nonverbal communication between musicians. And, I don't know, maybe that comes easy. Tell me about it. How does it work for you guys,
Okay, well, this actually leads me into something that we touched upon earlier. You'd mentioned in your intro, Perfect Strangers. So the trio that I do the majority of my work in is Perfect Strangers, which is myself, Claire, my wife Claire on the flute, and Guy Pezzullo, who you saw the other night on electric guitar.
Okay.
And somehow or another, it just really, really works. Guy has got a wonderful ear. He can improvise on anything I throw at him. I do my, I'm kind of the glue, but between Guy and Claire, they're the ones doing the incredible solos. I mean, they do anything.
They're adding the spice to the song.
Oh boy, and boy, do they do a great job. So Claire and I will actually arrange things because we're married, we live together, we work on these arrangements. And Guy just after going through a song once or twice, he finds the exact spot he needs to be in, and we always leave room for him. But they'll do anything from Jethro Tull to Pink Floyd to stuff that's really, really difficult, and they do a fabulous job with it. So that's our trio that we play a lot of live gigs with. It's also the people that I record with. Is
Gotcha.
Claire and Guy. So some of the recordings that you've heard.
Now, do you record at home, or you go to a studio? How do you approach the recording process?
Yes, I've actually had a recording studio in my house for many, many years. I used to have a functional recording studio in Wanto when I lived there. I've got a smaller recording studio now. I can't really fit a drum set, or I can record with one, maybe two people at this point. But I've been doing home recordings for many, many years now.
So it ties into having a good ear, in studio production. It's I had a couple of studio guys who listen to my podcast and kind of properly drew me across the carpet. I featured Mike Nugent's song, and he's like, "You put it in mono, and you really didn't do his song justice." And I'm like, "Oh man, okay, yeah." Well, I learned that lesson early on, which is good. But having that ear, and I think for new musicians, there's so much to be learned about having a trained ear.
Yes.
To find out where you need to be and where you start and where you end up. That's part of, besides the fingering on the fretboard, it's training your ear to catch things that I think really kind of work. So when you have a few recordings, you put it up like through CD Baby, or how do you get it out to the world, I guess?
Yeah, basically, I mean, for years I was actually recording CDs and putting out CDs, and all of a sudden, CDs are now used for, to put your drinks on, and there's everything is Spotify, this, that, and the other thing. So I've gone into that at this point. So now I think I've got about 1.5 CDs up on Spotify at this point. I've got a couple of backlog that I want to put back up, and I've got a couple of older songs that I really love that I was never happy with the recordings that I'm actually going to re-record in the near future.
Right. And that's one of the reasons I started the Long Island Sound podcast, is really to kind of separate it out. You can throw, I equated it to like, desktop printing. You can produce and put it up there, but now how do you spotlight it? And if you think about, you're not going to make, I hate to say this, you're not going to make money on Spotify, with your music. And you have to do live performance is what I'm hearing from musicians. And to get that gig, it's very rare, unless you have a large catalog of original music, to go out and just play original music. And the mixing of cover songs, and I'm sure you probably sneak in a couple of your original songs when you play out there. And that's why tribute bands really kind of jumped into the scene to get airplay, I guess, live airplay.
That's very true, and it's very difficult to get original gigs, much less paying original gigs. I mean, if you go into Manhattan, you have to pay to play, which is really crazy. That's how bad it is.
Right.
But we do throw some originals in. It's almost like a separate entity. We've got our repertoire of cover songs that we play at the venues, that we play at restaurants, things like that, and we've also got the original slice of the pie where we do some recording, and then there are some original shows that we get involved in, and it's a nice balance. But I'm not under the delusion that that people that don't know my music are going to want to hear it, or any other original artists. Some people do. It's a small audience, unfortunately. People want to hear what they know.
Yeah, true. Yeah, they want to reminisce, and they want that familiarity with their music, and I can't object to that. I think I was looking at a couple of the photos online. Did you guys play at Bartini in Babylon by chance?
We played at Bartini a few times. Dave Drew, the owner of Bartini's, is a great guy. Very, very big in the community. Always does a lot of great things for original music. He writes his own music, and really nice man. We've known him probably about 10 or 15 years, and couldn't be a nicer guy.
Yeah, another guest, Kevin Macleod, who went to high school with me. He's a jazz player, plays at Bartini very often. And for those who don't know, Bartini is right by the Babylon train station on the north side. It's a tiny little bar, has a nice little back room. With a little stage, and you can hear great original music when you go there. So it's a great place.
I don't actually. I'm sorry, Steve. I actually don't know. I actually don't know Kevin MacLeod, but he plays in the band that you just referenced. He plays with my old drummer Claudio. He plays in the band with him. They do the jazz thing. Yeah.
Yeah, True to Life is one of his bands. He played in Manhattan.
Okay.
And, he and I went to Holy Trinity High School.
Oh, my son went there.
Graduated 1979. So we played the song Solitude as an opener. So tell us about that, how that came about, and the story behind the song.
Yeah, a quick story. I was actually, I don't know if you or any of your audience is familiar with Lucinda Williams, but I was trying to write a song in the in the vein of her type of song, which is kind of country-ish type of thing, which isn't typically what I write. And this is what came out, and it was actually written pre-COVID. And then it's like the old saying, "Be careful what you wish for." So the song is called Solitude, and then we spent 2 years in solitude. So be careful what you wish for.
I won't blame you, Bob.
But so I wrote the music on this song, and I wrote myself and Claire. Actually, Claire contributed to the lyrics as well. She's very happy with the line she wrote. The line is the sacred is within, and it's a beautiful line. So we both contributed on the lyrics to Solitude.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to ask you the typical songwriting question. Does the melody come first? Do the lyrics come first? Do you depend upon somebody else? Or do you collaborative or less collaborative? Maybe you answered that already. How do you approach the muse?
Yeah, typically my songwriting, I've done very, very little collaborating. I've thought about it many times and I've considered it, but it just never really panned out that much. Typically the music comes first, or maybe a title or an idea comes first, and then I'll kind of work with that. I mean, I've had songs. I wrote a song. It's actually on Spotify, where I was on the subway one day going to work, and I was sleeping, and I woke up, and this melody and the line "3 bugs on ice" was in my head. What it means, I have no idea. And I actually wrote a song about it, and people say they love the song. So you just never know.
Yeah, it just comes out of the ether, right?
Yeah.
And, and I always joke about it. I've written 1,000 pieces of songs, and I've forgotten them all. But to have something stick in your head and act on it is what makes you an artist and a musician. To kind of draw it out of yourself, and expand upon it. That's kind of cool.
What I had done prior to smartphones with the recorder built in is I would always carry a small recorder with me. Because I get a melody in my head or a line in my head, and like you said, if you don't capture it, you forget it. So I would constantly be recording little snippets of melody, snippets of vocals, things like that, just to kind of save them.
Right. Yeah, I do the same thing. I hit the little record button, and I'll just say idea for a song, idea for a poem. And then I'll go back to it when I have some solitude and some thinking time, which I've probably had too much thinking time over the past 2 years. But things are starting to loosen up, and there's a lot more live music now, and it's a good thing. And let me ask you this: so you mentioned you go out and you played the wineries on the North Fork, right? You've done that.
Yes.
Do you try to stick to a particular geographical location, or where do you play around the island? I guess is what I'd like to find out.
Yeah, it's funny how the music scene works, and Claire and I have spoken about this, and I don't know if it's because there's a lot of people in our boat that played music their whole lives, and all of a sudden they're semi-retired or retired, or the kids are out of the house and they want to get back into it. But there is a lot more musicians than gigs. So we'll take the gig anywhere. So we've been, I've been at this. I'm playing my whole life, but I got back seriously into it about 2009, 2010, and we've got a number of recurring gigs. So we play in Nassau County, we play in Suffolk County, we do some vineyards, we do some marinas out on the North Fork. We just recently got a gig on the South Fork at a place called I think it's the Beach Bar. We haven't played the gig yet, but we've got it lined up.
Nice.
So we've, and typically what we found over the years is when we get our foot in the door, we typically tend to stay. We're easy to work with, and we give them a good night of music.
That's the whole thing. I was an earlier guest of mine, Dan Donnelly, who plays on the South Shore. He gigs. He has a full-time job, and he gigs 3 or 4 times a week. It's just he's crazy, and I'll say that, and he'll agree with me. But one of the things I pulled out from his conversation and yours is you got to work with the venue operator and be kind of easygoing about it, and how you approach it. And I was thinking about this. Another gentleman, Eric McCormick, told me, he goes, you know what? I start out low with my volume because I'm really happy when they come and tell me to turn it up as opposed to turn it down, and take that approach,
That's good advice.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? You can always turn it up, but the other's going to have a negative impact on you and how you go. Claire might join us, I think, right? That
I
would be
believe
lovely.
she's going to try to stop down in a few minutes. Yes.
Wonderful. So I'll ask her about her background, and she plays the flute, right?
Yes.
And yeah, really. It's nice. It's a nice touch, because at least I don't run into that in the bars and restaurants. Maybe a wedding. At the cocktail hour. I assume you do that too. You do special events or parties and stuff like that.
Yes, we do parties. We do wedding ceremonies. We do wedding cocktail hours. Typically not a reception, only because then they want to get the DJ in there and everyone wants to dance, and we're a little bit mellow for that type of thing. But we've actually got a wedding coming up next month that we're doing, and we've done them at the Garden City Hotel. We've done a bunch of weddings as well. So we've got a very versatile set list. We do mellow stuff. We can do the rock stuff if that's what it calls for. We've got songs for the young kids. We've got songs for the people our age. A little bit of everything.
Yeah, you need that diversity, and then you kind of roll with whatever audience that you're playing with. And by the way, I'm happy to take any of your events and post it on the Gig Destiny site. We use a Google Calendar, and happy to reference where you're going to be. So when people listen to this podcast, they know where to go and say, hey, you know what? I think I'd like to listen to Bob and Claire in person. So that would be kind of cool. Sure. So let's talk about the next song that we're going to play for the audience. I think it's Serenity Today. You want to tell us about that, and then we'll take a break and listen to it.
Sure. Well, I've kind of, I'm at this a long time, and I've kind of gravitated toward lyrics that have a little bit more substance, and kind of away from the cliche generic lyric, which really does nothing for me these days. And I hope after living as many years as I've lived, hopefully I've gotten a little bit of wisdom, and different things are important to me now than they were back in the day. And this really is a song about those fleeting moments of serenity in our lives, and looking back on the mistakes you make, or I've made, and accepting them, learning from them, and saying, okay, but what I have at this moment, I have serenity at this moment, and it's I found a better way. I have serenity today, and it's all about really putting things in that perspective and saying, this is really what's important to me. Being peaceful, and that those are the kind of things that are meaningful to me to me today that were not maybe as meaningful when I was in my 20s.
Yeah, it's interesting as we're similar in age, probably a year apart. And my daughter really has been teaching me this. Is an empathetic person who counts their blessings really gives they give themselves a new perspective on many things. And when I was listening to the song we're about to hear, counting your blessings really just kind of resonated with me with this song. So why don't we take a listen to Serenity Today? We'll be right back.
Love is patient, love is kind. Many years I didn't mind, praying for a better way. I have serenity today. Love is simple as a rule. You were fearful I was cruel, still I failed to let you in. Where you end and I begin, we deny and we deceive, in the tangled web we weave. How many pardons do we get, from resentment to regret? The past is painful, don't you know? So I choose to let it go. Wisdom by another name will will tomorrow be the same? We deny and we deceive, in the tangled web we weave. How many chances do we earn? As many lessons as we learn. Love is patient, love is kind. Love is always on my mind. Now I embrace a better way. I have serenity today. I embrace a better way. I have serenity today.
Hey, what a great song, Bob. Serenity Today. It's got a lot of great lessons in it, and it's really peaceful. It's kind of nice to listen to. So tell me, Bob, tell me about, we learned about the fertile ground of music in your family and how you picked up the instrument and how you approached it. Tell me about how things progressed from that point with bands and stuff, and what you did with music.
Okay, so like I said, started playing at a young age. Went off to college, and met some great musicians in college. And turns out I went to school up at Oswego, and it turned out that the musicians that I met up at Oswego were Long Islanders, which was great. So sure. I came back down here, and one of the gentlemen, his name is Alan Fox. We started a band called The Leaders. And he and I were the main songwriters. We kind of had that friendly competitiveness. Like I'd write a song and he'd want to match it, and then I'd have to try to match his song. And we really had a nice catalog of music. And then we had a drummer who was with us for many years. His name was Rick Cash, and we were all friends over the years. And we've kind of played together, then not played together, and played together again over the years. Up until up until the last 6 to 8 months, 10 months, we were still recording together, getting together. So it's kind of a sad story, but I wanted to bring it up anyway. So we find out a few months back that Ricky, our drummer, had lung cancer, and he took many treatments, and at one point they said there's really nothing we can do. So he was, Al and I were talking every other day about Ricky, and he's going to hospice and this and that. And I get a phone call, thinking that it's about, thinking it's about Ricky, and it's another musical friend of ours. And he tells me that Al had a heart attack and passed away.
Oh my God.
And then 3 days later, Ricky passed away. So I lost both of them in a week.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And it was just dear friends, great musicians, and one of the reasons I bring this up is actually the main reason I bring this up is one to pay a tribute to them. But when we talked about doing this podcast, an idea that came to me, I just want to put something out there to you is, sure. Something that you may consider, or I think might be a good idea if at one point we could just let me backtrack real quick. So Al actually just got remarried and just retired and had a heart attack, months later. If at any point in time you want to get maybe his new wife and his brother, who was also in the entertainment business, and maybe talk about Al and play some of his music, it might be something you might work.
Oh, that'd be great.
He really a great songwriter. He's done some beautiful songs over the years. We've recorded with each other, and really good guy.
I'd feel blessed to do that. I really would. You make it happen, and I'll do that podcast. I'm happy to do that, and what's great about music? Your music lives on, along with the memories. So that's something we'll explore. Hey man, that came out of left field, but I thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff, you know.
So on a brighter note, Claire's joined us.
Yeah, okay. Well,
No.
There's no video. There's no video, Claire.
There's no video.
yeah, Claire, don't worry. Don't worry. We're putting up stills of you, Claire. It's all good.
Just say hello, Steve.
Okay, hi. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for joining us, Claire. Welcome to the Long Island Sound podcast.
Thank you for having us.
And I know. Oh, hey, we're sharing something in common.
You have
He's
some
got
wine
his
too?
yeah.
Oh, good.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Mine's Pinot Grigio.
Chardonnay.
Okay. Hey, thanks for joining us. I appreciate. Claire just got off from work, and if I dragged my wife onto a podcast, I would be paying dearly for it moments after the podcast was done. But thanks for joining us. What I find, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, Claire. We went through Bob's background and his family, and they were very musical. How did you get introduced to music and pick up your instrument and kind of explore that? When did it start for you?
Oh boy, I must have been 8 years old and started in school with all the other little kids. And I just always really loved it. I just really loved it. It stuck with me. I played in college. I had the opportunity to meet some of the greatest flute players of my time because they came to my college and we got to meet them. You know, Jean-Pierre Rampal and James Galway and.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I remember him with the penny flutes playing two at once, right?
Yes. He's quite a character. But and then just kept playing, and after college would pick it up every now and then because life gets in the way, kids, jobs. Yep. And then about I don't know, maybe 12 or 15 years ago, one of my neighbors said, you're going to come play with us, and I'm like, I am.
Right.
I'm like, show me where the music is. No, you have to write the music. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I could do this. But she dragged me to an open mic, and it was humiliating, and I swore I'd never go back. And then the person running the open mic emailed me and said, can you learn this part for next week or whatever. Which I ignored the email because I thought surely he must have the wrong person, seriously.
Right.
So I didn't answer. He sent another email and said, no, can you do this? I said, I don't think you know who you're directing this to. I really honestly thought he was, trying to get someone else. And he said, no, I know who you are, and I want you to learn this part. And so I did. And then after that, I was hooked,
It's amazing. Something simpler happened to me where I picked up guitar late in life, played the 3 chords, was miserable, put it down for 10 years, and hung on the wall like that. Mm-hmm. And I had a friend who invited me over and said, hey, I hear you play guitar. Why don't you play with us? And I played with them, and I was horrified about myself. I was just like this. I was like, but the gauntlet was kind of thrown down, and it really said, you know what, I'm going to get better because I really enjoyed their company. Mm-hmm. And being with musicians, and I was hooked.
Yeah.
I'm still horrible, but
I don't believe that for a minute.
But I can play a lot more horrible notes than I did in the past.
So you've made progress.
The other thing I found is kind of cool. Now, it's the great retirement. With COVID and everything happening, and you're a couple who plays music together, which is rare, and you seem to get along from what Bob said. Earlier. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, he's lying.
You argue like cats and dogs. But to be able to share that, and he mentioned that, talking in 2 different languages, between the flute and the way he plays, and how you have to kind of sync those 2 together is I find pretty interesting. And I listened to your music, and it's just very peaceful and has just a beautiful tone to it. And I had mentioned this earlier when I introduced Bob, is that his voice is what kind of, we went to the Village Lantern for dinner, my wife Debbie and I, and it's like the voice kind of grabbed me and then created some kind of interest. But now I really want to see you guys live because, the 2 of you playing together, and I want to see if you really argue because that would be really cool too.
Yeah, we really don't. The only thing we argue about is music.
What would be cool? Is
what?
you play like this serene music, flute, guitar. He's doing his Paul Simon thing, and then you fight in between the songs.
Yeah,
I think that would be something to see.
Right.
I mean, that would.
We'd have to learn how to do that.
Yeah. Right. I've got a bit of practice under my belt with that for sure. So so in the beginning of the podcast we heard the song Solitude, and then we just heard Serenity Today. Okay, and what I want to jump into next is the third song is and I think you play on this is Rooftop Serenade.
Right.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, or Bob, or you both?
No, why don't you tell him about it, Bob?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll take over.
And Bob will.
He will.
Yeah. Excellent.
So
you take instruction well, my friend.
Yes, dear. We were actually playing at a vineyard, a Sonino vineyard out east. They became very, very dear friends of ours. I talked about earlier. We started playing there about 12 years ago, and we became very, very good friends with them, the owners. And anyway, so there was a couple listening to us, and when we took a break, the woman said, "Can I talk to you?" So we sat down with them. She says, I'm one of the directors at a charity called Friends of Karen. And Friends of Karen is similar to like the St. Jude's Children, where they basically, they help families with that have childhood illness. They help the families out, but it's a local charity. It's a Long Island metropolitan area charity. And she said, "We're doing a fundraiser in the city. Would you like to to provide music for the cocktail hour?" And we said we would love to. So for about how many years, Claire? About 3 or 4 years?
3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years in a row, we would go to Tribeca Rooftop, up to the top, and they would raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for this charity. There were celebrities there, and we got to perform, and we had a ball. So anyways, I tell that story because where this song came from is, so we come to the building, and there are homeless people on the ground floor, and then you take the elevator up 12 floors, and they're raising $600,000. And I don't, and I'm not judging that. I'm just, it just the disparity just struck me, and it's really what the lyrics of the song are about. It's about the such a disparity between people who have nothing and people, yes, they're donating to. They're donating to this charity, which is wonderful, but they've got money to burn, and that's really what the lyrics of the song "Rooftop Serenade" are about.
Cool. What we'll do also in the chapter marks, we'll put the link in for that charity as well, so that if people want to lend a helping hand, we're happy to promote that as well. So why don't we take a listen to "Rooftop Serenade," and we'll be right back.
Slick back his matted locks and spray him fragrant. Then who could differentiate the backup? Volunteer the mover or the shake-up. Up to the rooftop serenade. Blood and rust on a razor blade. The skyline breaks and treetops fade. Step right up to the rooftop serenade. I pose behind the microphone and ponder as I let my imagination wander. Fearless dance the destination walls toward every serenade. Drown your woes with lemonade. Toss it back like a hand grenade. Knock to the ground at the rooftop serenade. All the ladies dressed in jewels and satin shiver, rise above the posturing and chatter, where self-importance doesn't seem to matter. Up to the rooftop serenade, blood and rust on a razor blade. The skyline breaks and treetops fade. The biggest cup is finally filling up to the rooftop serenade. The distant stars illuminate the remnants of a weary masquerade they call the rooftop serenade. That to 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 the rooftop serenade.
Absolutely beautiful song. So tell me, Bob, what do you guys got? What's the future for Perfect Strangers for you guys in music? And we're probably going to have this up by May 1st, I would think. So what do you got coming up in May in the summer?
One, we have a website, a Facebook page, which is Perfect Strangers Long Island. If you like the Facebook page, we post all of our gigs on both. So what we have coming up is we've got a number of vineyards. We're playing at Clovis Point. We're playing at Sonino Vineyard. We're playing at Billy's by the Bay. These are all on the North Fork. Mm-hmm. We play monthly at Burley's Restaurant over by Nassau Coliseum.
Oh, yeah, in East Meadow, yep.
Yeah, we play there monthly. What else do we have coming up?
The Hamptons gig.
I mentioned the Beach Bar in the Hamptons. That's going to be coming up in June or July. Villa Sorrento Restaurant in Jamesport, or St. James, excuse me, or Northport Farmers Market. We play about once a month. So we've got a lot of stuff going on in different places. So rather than go through every gig, and when we put the stuff out there if anybody's interested. If they want to send us an email, we'll put them on a mailing list.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm sure once people have heard your music here, they'll be hooked and they'll hunt you down, for sure.
I'll tell you one real quick. One nice thing that we're doing is we did this last year, and they gave us the go-ahead again this year, is on 4th of July. If people are looking for something to do in the afternoon, we're actually playing a free outdoor concert in Northport, Northport Harbor, right by the water, and we're going to be setting up from 3 to 6, and we're just going to be playing music outside to celebrate the day. And we did it last year, and it was a big hit, and we're doing it again this year.
Tell them how that happened.
Oh, with the COVID?
With the COVID,
oh,
yeah.
So we're very opportunistic. So COVID hits in March of 2020, and basically I'm crossing out all of our gigs for the next 6 months.
Sure.
So I have the idea I'm like, you know what? Why don't we go get ourselves a couple of rechargeable speakers? Nice, we're going to invest a couple of dollars, and I bought a couple of really nice rechargeable speakers, and we went out to Northport down by the water over there, and we'd play in the park every day. And people were like, "This is great. There's no live music these days." They have like sound and noise ordinances in Northport. But they looked the other way for about 6 months, and then they finally shut us down. But we played the entire summer out there, and we were making a couple $100 a day in tips.
Wow!
It was great. It was
having a ball.
It was such a win-win. It worked for us. It worked for people that were looking for something to do. It was really, really nice, and you could social distance.
Yeah, it's interesting thing through COVID how creative people were to do a lot of stuff online and that sort of thing. And I remember as things were easing up. I remember the Lily Flanagan's, they would only allow two musicians to play.
Is that crazy?
They wouldn't allow more than two. You couldn't dance. You weren't allowed to dance. And I actually asked my wife to dance, and the guy stopped us. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even have to tip the guy. And no, but he did stop us. But there's another lesson in that too. And it happened with, what you did with the charity on the rooftop in Tribeca. And what you did in the park is you got to throw the goodwill out there, because honestly, it comes back in spades. you know?
Yep.
And people appreciate that, and you get the exposure, and yeah, that's experience talking right there. That's what you got to do. So, hey, I want to thank you both, by the way, for your time today. I look forward to meeting you in person and hearing you out in the vineyards and having a glass. By the way, I'm drinking a little Pinot Grigio. It's just to loosen up the vocal cords, for the podcast. I do it for the podcast, and then I write the bottle of wine off, which is, I got that going for
We
me.
need to do that.
I know. He's a very wise man.
Yeah.
So one of the things I in my podcast this way, and a good friend had told me this, and I'm being honest about this, is, we can account for what's in the bank and what we own. We can never account for what time we have left. So when you give me an hour of your time and you share your music and your expertise, it's really a blessing, and I appreciate it very much.
Well, we appreciate you. Thank you very much. We really enjoyed this, and it's been, I met you not even a week ago, and this is a pleasure to meet you and a pleasure to do this.
All right. I look forward to seeing you guys again. Claire, thanks for jumping in.
Thanks for allowing me.
Yeah, well,
You're a nice
Bob
guy.
Bob really twisted my arm. What can I tell you? All right, you guys be well, and we'll be in touch, okay?
You too.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate the time you spent with us. Please subscribe and comment and visit us at gigdestiny.com. Till next time, be generous with your joy, keep your spirits high, and let the music take you on a journey. Be well. Peace.